Hi everyone, welcome to the second On Air with Fahim. If you haven't guessed this already, my name's Fahim. I spent half a decade in the accounting tech space in the UK. More recently, I've thrown myself into the scene in the UAE. So the goal of On Air is simple. I want to be able to shine a light on what's really working for accountants and businesses today and hear directly from the people who are driving that change. We're actually based in Dubai, so most of our sessions are going to be focused around what's happening over here in the UAE and across the GCC. I say here in the UAE, I'm actually in the UK currently, hence why I'm all wrapped up at the moment. But it's about really just tackling everyday challenges that we know all too well and showing how the right tools can make life easier. So we'll go through a rough agenda for today and what we'll be covering. So we'll start with an introduction from our guest, Paul. I'll share a bit of context on why we've chosen this particular problem to focus on, and then why we think Dext is the tool that solves it best. From there, we'll jump into a live walkthrough of the product so you can see exactly how it works in practice. And finally, we'll give you guys a chance to ask any questions that you have about Dext and I guess the problem as a whole. And I've also got a few great questions that people have sent me beforehand, so thank you for that. Without much further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest, Paul. Paul is the VP of Accounting Product Strategy at Dext. Paul spent over 20 years in the accounting industry before joining the team at Dext about 5 years ago, coming up to 5 years, should I say. I actually used to work at Dext myself, and I never actually formally managed Paul's account, but it's so great to have this sort of full circle moment and hear directly from someone who's been shaping the product from the inside out. Paul's connection with Dext goes back even further than that. But I'll let him tell you a bit more because I'll probably only just scratched the surface. So welcome, Paul.
Thank you, and delighted to be here today joining you for this session. So yeah, we started probably using Dext, formerly known as Receipt Bank, back in about 2014, something like that. I was one of 8 partners in the firm. I was head of our digital sort of strategy and digital transformation, and I was not only looking after a large portfolio of clients, as all partners do within firms or owners within those firms. I was very much involved in looking at solutions that could streamline workflows, make life easier, not only for ourselves, the team, but also our clients as well, with a view that when you've got this real-time information, you've got completeness of records, it really starts to drive additional conversations. It drives that advisory. You can support your clients more. And this is where Dext was actually instrumental to everything we did, which we'll touch base on more as we go through the session today.
Thanks so much for coming on. When was it that you actually started using Dext out of interest?
I would say it must have been about 2014. It could have even been slightly before then, but I'd say 2014 because we were already using it when there was legislation in the UK, MTD for VAT, which was around the sort of 2016 mark, and we'd already been using it a good few years before then. And actually, when we did start using Dext, or Receipt Bank as it was, I was actually just sort of looking for a solution that just dealt with bank statements and extracting information off bank statements. So that's where we first started using it, and then gradually expanded into extracting information off cost documents and invoices and receipts and things like that. And then over those sort of last 10 years, Dext has really evolved into a much more sort of bookkeeping automation platform that integrates with many of the accounting software systems out there, your Xero, your Zoho Books, your QuickBooks, all of these things to really streamline that workflow. Because my view has always been, if you can nail the completeness of records, getting the information in, everything after becomes a lot more efficient and a lot more seamless.
Definitely, and I can attest that fact as well. So a lot of people don't know this, how I actually got exposed to this whole accounting tech space. So I'll give you a bit of insight to that. So back in, I think, 2015, 16, you referenced my LinkedIn, but I was working at a marketing analytics firm, and they were based out in Austria. So there'd be a lot of travel back and forth, and they actually used to use Receipt Bank to collect their receipts. So back then, I was exposed to Receipt Bank, and as an end user, and yeah, things kind of just well, we had like Brexit conversations looming. There was loads of stuff happening, and I ended up reaching out to Receipt Bank then, and saying, "Hey, like, will you guys give me a job?" And yeah, I was successful. I joined the team at Receipt Bank, and that really opened my eyes into like this space of accounting text, because I'd studied accounting and I knew it from like the management accounting and the IFRS standpoint. I didn't really understand like the inner workings of a practice. That's something I think studying accounting from a university standpoint definitely lacks. And from working at places like Dext, I think my eyes were really opened into like the inner workings, like the engine of an accountancy practice, if you will. So I worked at Dext, and then I moved over to Intuit QuickBooks for a while, and then now I'm here at Scope Middle East, trying to influence accountancy practices and businesses to kind of look into making their workflows as automated as they can be. So yeah, it's, like I say, crazy to have this full circle moment, but yeah, it's amazing. I've got a question just to kind of kick this discussion piece off for you, Paul. So what would you say in terms of bookkeeping and client collaboration specifically? What would you say is like the biggest headache? Like, what's the thing that firms are trying to get rid of by using any tool like this?
The biggest headache at the moment is often around incomplete records, or the biggest challenge. Too much time is spent starting the year-end work or starting the bookkeeping, reconciling the bank account, whatever it may be. You find you're missing some paperwork. You then have to contact your client, and you may end up waiting for the information to come in. And it's this stop-start in terms of trying to get a job complete. And it's this stop-start that has a real impact in terms of recoverability, because often this is just time that is being incurred that can't be recovered. It's time that is just written off, all of this back and forth. And this is still the number one challenge for many firms, because many firms want to also move this transition to more advisory, helping clients achieve their goals, personal and business. But there's a real blocker in the way, and then it's very hard to really move the dial when you're spending too much time on the sort of the core work and that back and forth. And when you've also got capacity challenges anyway, sitting across the top of it all, this just compounds that issue even further. So my view is very much real-time information, critical number one, getting it coming through Dext as close to the transaction date as possible. Number two, ensuring that all information is flowing through, so you have completeness of records. And when you've dealt with those two things, then investing the time to bring in the automation that is available in a platform like Dext, that will then feed through into your general ledger. And it's from that point onwards where knowing that you've got completeness of records, knowing you've got accurate records, means the rest of the workflow should be more efficient. That frees up time, creates capacity, and allows you to drive additional revenue income streams.
Yeah, excellent answer. I think you've hit every nail on the head there. So and completely from my experience working in this field, I couldn't agree more. I think working with both businesses and accountants directly, I think you're overly exposed to the fact that, like, the conversation that a lot of businesses have with accountants and like the people who look after their books is often like something that's daunting. And I think that's something that Dext kind of really eases, because it makes it so easy for you to get these things done, and it gives you that oversight that you need. Definitely. Sorry, you're going to say something.
Yeah, no, I was gonna completely 100% agree with you. Clients don't like being chased every 5 minutes for paperwork. When you get into the routine of a client just taking a picture, uploading documents, it actually removes all of that friction. And often, and this is particularly in the UK, but I suspect it applies to all regions that I've gone to, is often the work is driven by compliance need. So I've got a VAT return coming up, or a corporation tax computation, or a year-end account, and that's often the trigger to start the ball rolling. Whereas actually what should be happening is all of the information flowing throughout the period, so that when you actually get to the compliance task, it's straightforward. But the other benefit is, if everything is flowing throughout the period, you have more insights during the period. Those insights can allow you to be the proactive advisor rather than potentially a more reactive advisor. But there's other benefits in terms of understanding what's going on much sooner. You could see a massive increase in activity. That in itself can lead to a conversation. And for me, putting on my accountant hat, it was those conversations which were critically important. The more interactions, the more touch points, that strengthens the relationship between yourselves and your clients. And it's relationships that are so critically important, because the more conversations you have, the more understanding you have around what some of their challenges may be, what their goals potentially are as well. And that allows you to help achieve whatever they're wanting to achieve, or allows you to help solve any of the issues that they may be facing. So for me, real-time information just changes everything.
Definitely. I think there's just from listening to what you're saying, I think it kind of my sales type of hat comes on. And I think especially in the UAE, so I mean, you don't have to be in Dubai long to realize that there's money around. People are happy to pay their fees, should we say. Like, you can charge a very healthy amount, arguably in both the UK and Dubai equally. But I think, it's definitely abundantly clear in Dubai. You don't have to be there for long to spot a supercar or like a crazy mansion or something. So there's definitely, people have the wealth here to spend on these types of insights. And even further to that, I think as an accountant, you really have to think, look, what type of clients do I want? And having that like real-time insights and stuff is going to be so critical for businesses, especially for people who are looking to get funding somewhere down the line, to sell their business somewhere down the line, to be able to reel off numbers to investors or potential or people who are actually going to be putting money or buying the business from you, to be able to reel off, like, this is how much we spend on X or whatever it is, to be able to say that and show that you've got processes internally with your accountant or whatever that allow you to be agile in your decision making as a business owner. It just makes it so much easier, and it makes you look so much more attractive as a business. And I think as an accountant, when you start attracting those clients by just using tools and softwares and having processes, it's the law of attraction, right? You have a great experience with one client, and then you get recommended to another similar client, and then before you know it, like, the fee conversation is completely out the window, because you've kind of proven your value to businesses, and it's an actual real business. It's very, very, very valuable to businesses, shall I say.
It is. You've got to demonstrate the value, and all of the, it's not just about compliance. We used to do goal setting sessions with our clients, new clients and existing clients, and it would be very much, what are your personal goals and what are your business goals? Because they are often very tightly linked. If the business is performing well, it will often help them achieve their personal goals as well. And when you understand what their goals are from a 1 year period, 5 year period, 10-year period, then often the question I would always ask is, what gets in the way of you achieving those goals? And often the response would be lack of time, lack of visibility of numbers, and a lack of sort of having a sounding board or a strategic advisor. And this is the huge opportunity for accountants and bookkeepers to start actually being that business advisor, that strategic advisor who really helps their client achieve those goals. And when your client knows that you are there to help them achieve their goals rather than just complete a compliance task, they really start to see the value, because that becomes personable to them. Compliance is just, we've got to do it. And often compliance is done, and it's done months after the year end. No one wants to look back at historical figures necessarily. The only thing people are generally interested in when it comes to compliance is, what tax do I have to pay, if there's any tax to pay at all? That is the outcome often of compliance, is if there's any liabilities to pay, and if there's any other statutory obligations in terms of filing accounts and things like that. What they really want to be talking about is the next period coming up, the future, and what does that look like? And this is where the real opportunity comes in. Someone may want to buy another building. Okay, how much is the building? Okay, have you thought about how you're going to fund it? Let's look at the cash flow. Let's look at the profitability. Let's look at the additional costs associated with it. Let's look at whether there's a sort of tax opportunities in terms of the property being purchased. You know, these are the things that make the difference. These are the things that really add value, and these are the things that clients will pay for.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. I think looking at, like, so my experience in the UAE has been like that. You get almost like two batches, if you will, of like practices, accountants, and businesses. So you get like someone who's really, really interested in using like the latest and the greatest of everything, and happy to test and spend their time. And then you get like the people who are like, no, I don't want to do it. It's going to be way too much time. All my clients care about is the compliance piece. And look, compliance is very, very important. We've just come off of like the corporation tax deadline, and it's brand new in the
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think if that doesn't wake you up and like make you think, look, how can I make next September a bit easier on me and my team? Because a lot of people were saying, look, it was a really hard, and look, it is brand new for everyone. But the quicker you kind of get, at least in the conversation of like, what can I automate? Like, where are my holes at the moment, and what can I fill in? I think I think it kind of starts shaping your business up to make, you know, attract those really high fee paying clients and so on.
Completely.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, and I think I was very fortunate when I was in practice. My fellow partners saw the benefit of digitalization and everything else. So although I was still a partner with a portfolio of clients, I was also probably about 50% non-chargeable time. And it was that time that allowed me to really focus on what our workflows were, where were their bottlenecks in the workflow, how we could improve those workflows, and invest the time looking at solutions and then building from there. Because one of the challenges I always hear is, you know, everyone, you know, generally agrees with the importance of digitalization, using new tools, but you've got to invest the time as well. And when you invest the time, it's often taking away time that could be potentially used on chargeable work. But this isn't a sort of short-term thing. This is a long-term journey. And this is the direction of travel for every firm I speak to now, is how to become that sort of digital firm of the future, that automated firm, and that firm that can use the insights, can then use the tools to help their clients.
Definitely. Just off the back of that, so, and I can give you my insight of what I've seen in the UAE, but from like your experience in the UK, do you think that most practices generally are keeping up with the pace of tech adoption? Because right now we've got like there's the internet wave is gone, and the AI wave is like here at the moment. And I was saying to you just before, like it seems like there's something coming out every few weeks. Like there's this new development, and it's speeding up everything. And like I'm not gonna have to do anything in like the next 2 years. My whole life's going to be automated. But do you think that actual practices of today are keeping up to with the pace of, I guess, the evolution of tech?
The honest answer is no, I don't think they are. I think there's a lot of noise in the industry at the moment, and there is the new shiny thing every other week. I think what I see and hear a lot is firms do sign up to new tools, but they're not really embracing those tools. They're not really getting the most out of it, and therefore optimization is low. And as a result, they often question the return. And this comes back to the point that when you sign up to something new like Dext, it's not a case of you sign up to something new and everything is then perfect. You have to spend time at the start. You have to understand the functionality. You have to see which areas are likely to give you the greatest time savings, which areas would be more beneficial for some clients or not. And coming back to the non-sort of chargeable fee earner, you also have to make sure you're keeping up to date with all of the updates and all of the releases, because even Dext last year, I think we released in a 12-month period something like 180 new features. Now, some of them were behind the scenes or very small, but other elements were very big, like approvals and the workflows around that more significant. And this is why it's also so important to build relationships with vendors, build relationships with yourself at Scope, who are there to really help in terms of that journey as well, and provide valuable insights and knowledge so that you can get the most out of the software that you're using, because that will ultimately lead to the maximum capacity creation, the most time saving, and it's that time that is then available to be used elsewhere. So I think, I remember, when the buzzword many years ago was cloud, and everyone was getting excited by the cloud and cloud accounting and all this sort of stuff. We just go through a cycle, it seems, and now the new buzzword is AI. Mm. But what we're seeing at the moment with AI is there is a lot of talk around AI, but there's a lack of practical application and use of AI at the moment. I think many firms are still finding their feet on where AI could be used. Now, Dext has had AI built into it for many, many years, since I remember using it. Many probably just don't realize it's backed by AI, with all of our AI sort of language learning models and everything else. So many of you will be using AI anyway on a day-to-day basis, but we're only just touching the surface. Coming very soon will be AI agents that will start to automate more and more of this task. Even note takers is one of those sort of nice, easy areas, which has huge benefits, but also potentially has some risks associated with it as well. So I think where we are at the moment is just on that journey. I think the actual tech companies at the moment are probably moving quicker than the professional, firms can actually keep up with.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's definitely good to mention that I think the profile of the average accountant is like normally quite risk averse, I'd say. And with the whole conversation behind AI, there is that element that, look, sometimes AI is not going to get everything right. Like, to be honest, I love AI, and I in my spare time, I say I love AI. I sound really weird saying that. AI, it definitely has its holes. Like when I'm looking into loads of different AI tools, like the common ones like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Claude, and so on and so forth. I mean, the list goes on forever, right? But with the use of AI, there is definitely things that it gets wrong. Like you can ask it for a list of 20 facts, and you can fact check this if you like. you can ask it for a list of 20 random facts, and I can pretty much guarantee one or two is going to be incorrect, right? And for an accountant, like, we can't afford to make that mistake, because like if you're looking at it from an accounting standpoint, if you get one of those, 20 things wrong, then that could mean that like your whole tax return's wrong, or your whole corporation tax wrong, right?
Reputational risk, and it
Yeah.
has an impact. There's no doubt about it. And you still need accountability, individuals who actually understand the rules, the legislation, and things like that. And there's also this nervousness with AI that people think it's going to replace them, it's going to take away their jobs. AI isn't going to do that. If you embrace AI, AI will complement what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. You are still, accountants, bookkeepers are still absolutely critical in that process, because it's those relationships, it's that interpretation of the numbers, it's making sure it's correct. And there's been some recent examples in the UK with recent tax law or tax cases where the judge, has actually noted that the individual has used AI, and the AI has hallucinated and made up case law, and that they're relying upon. So you've got to still be very careful with the usage and adoption of AI. But when used well and when used correctly, it's there to enhance and complement exactly what you're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Definitely. I don't know. It's a bit crazy, isn't it, going to court and relying on AI, isn't it? You'll definitely rely on a good lawyer. I think that brings me to like a point I definitely wanted to make whilst we have this discussion, is that like you need to have reliable and I guess tested softwares, like through years of actually just existing.
Correct.
And that's something that Dext has, and we were talking about it briefly before, and just the level of documents that Dext takes in is insane. I remember being there, like it's 6 years ago now, 6 or 7 years ago now, sorry, a while ago, and just seeing like the evolution since then has been insane. But then also just like speaking to a couple of the guys on the team and yourself, and just hearing about like how much it's taking in, as well as how much it's learning from that. I mean, that's something that Dext has that it can't be replicated, right? You can't replicate that muscle memory. Dext has been doing it for so long, and that's why it's so accurate. And that's what I think accountants love about Dext, is because you can rely on the fact that Dext has seen, I would say like 90% of like the invoice types that you could have, especially in the UK. And now, because of what we're doing in the UAE, like it's taking in more and more UAE invoices and getting used to how it is in the UAE.
100%. We're now processing in excess of 1 million documents every day. Many of those documents are done within seconds. And our language learning models, we've got our own inbuilt sort of AI tools, but we're also using OpenAI where necessary as well. So we're getting more and more sophisticated in terms of the type of documents we can read, the information that we can extract. It's getting more and more advanced, to the point that yes, there's all these other products that are being released all of the time, and I try and keep close to every product out there, and I'll test it as well. The key difference is, because of the volume we've got going through, not only can we continue to scale, because the number of documents we're processing just goes up and up and up all of the time, the accuracy just gets better and better and better on some of those more complex documents. We've always been very highly accurate, to the tune of sort of 99%, something like that, very highly accurate. But there's always been in the past some documents which we've struggled with, particularly if you've got income and expenditure on the same sort of document and you're having to gross up transactions and things like that. All of that can now be fully automated. So we just continue to expand on the potential and the opportunities, and more recently we've just enhanced our line item extraction even further. So we now have AI that can even look at receipts And if you want to group things together, it'll identify if something's food or drinks or whatever it may be, and start grouping everything by a higher level category, so you don't necessarily have everything listed. So we're certainly not slowing down. It's always been a big focus for us, AI, and we also have a dedicated machine learning team as well that are constantly focused on how do we just improve and enhance this even further to cover more and more of the workflow.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I think my overall kind of thought, well, my overall kind of takeaway from that is, while there is definitely new kids on the block, there is like, you as an accountant, it's always worthwhile you going to someone who's trusted and been doing it for years now. So which is why I like we've chosen to partner with Dext, because we are very, very picky as well when it comes to like scope and who we choose to partner with. It's like there is thousands of apps out there that we could partner with, and hence why scope actually exists, to kind of help reduce that noise. And that's, I would say, one of the biggest reasons why we can actually rely on Dext, because there's so many that claim to say, oh, we can extract this and we can do it in like half a second.
Yeah, agreed. It's often the accuracy where things go wrong on some of the other products. And at the end of the day, I chose to join Dext as well. I was a partner in a firm, as I said, and I had options to go anywhere, but I always wanted to work with a software company that I knew was going to continue to evolve, I could trust, and have utmost confidence at all times in terms of the extraction capabilities and the accuracy around that. And that's why we do have over 12,000 accounting and bookkeeping firms using us, 800,000 customers, and that sort of 1 million+ documents every day. And we're very proud in the fact that we don't have downtime. I think in the last year, in terms of downtime, it may have been seconds. And if it has happened, most people wouldn't even be aware.
Yeah.
And that's been the case going back all the way to 2014 from when I started using it. It's a platform that continues to just get stronger and stronger and stronger.
Definitely. We could probably discuss this for hours and hours, but the people who are joining us on LinkedIn, we've only promised them, we've got maximum an hour. So I've got two last questions before we get into the demo side of things. I'll give you them both up front, and then you can choose how to go about them. So the first one is, in terms of staff retention, because I think this is like one of the biggest things, especially in the UAE, because the cost of actually hiring another member of staff is relatively low, right? But as a practice, for me, it's always about what's scalable. Like, are you going to be able to keep up with the velocity needed to process these documents as you grow your client base? And as you grow your client base, you're just going to have to keep hiring more accountants, expanding, how many visa allocations you have, how many seats you have in your office, and so on. Like, is that the smartest way? I would probably say no. What does it have on staff retention? And the last question, I think something good to close this discussion out with, is what, like, from your experience, what happens to firms that don't adopt any type of technology and try and resist it? Like, what is the normal fate, if you will?
Yeah, so two parts to that. So in terms of staff retention, there's actually two elements to this. One of them is and what I'm starting to see more and more in the UK and other regions, is if you're not a digital firm, there's actually a real risk that your team members will leave. Your less experienced team members, those training potentially, or even some of the more experienced, will actually potentially leave to those firms who are embracing technology, because they're excited to be involved in the sort of next stage of accounting, bookkeeping, and advisory. The other part is, there's another part as well. If you don't embrace it and you want to grow and scale and take on new clients, without automation and efficiencies, there's two paths for this. You end up putting more pressure on your existing team members, who get overwhelmed, and the risk is they leave. Second part, there may even be three parts to this. The second part to this is you've always got to meet your client expectations and deliver on those services that you have been engaged to do. And if that starts to be impacted because you're taking on too many clients and you haven't got the skill set or the team members involved, that can be impacted as well. And that can be a reputational risk. And then the third part is when you do embrace these tools, though, not only may remove the need to employ as many new team members, it could be instead of employing 4, you may only need to employ 2 now, but you can actually take on more clients, potentially with your existing number of employees, number of team members. And that's when you really start to see that increase in profitability, improvement in margins, because you're not seeing any increase in wage costs, but you're seeing, in essence, just an increase in turnover, which is just going to feed through to the bottom line. So when you embrace all of this technology and you are that digital firm, you can do more with potentially less people and really drive that profitability up as well. Those firms who aren't embracing all of this technology, in essence, not only are being impacted with team members leaving, but they're not able to grow. And if team members are leaving, what's the succession planning going forward? Because you haven't necessarily got new partners or new individuals coming through. And there's also a big sort of shift in the whole industry at the moment where you've got private equity coming into the industry as well. And if you're ever looking at that as an exit route, private equity are going to be particularly interested in those firms that are clearly automated, can demonstrate some high margins, and can demonstrate that scalability, that ability to continue to grow without necessarily a significant increase in cost. And this is where this sort of technology, streamlined workflows, really has that positive impact.
Yeah. Cool. Like I say, I've got points that I want to make, but I know we're like we're running out of time. So, and I want to show the audience a demo of Dext. So, if you will do us,
I will. Let me share my screen. I'm hoping you can see my screen.
Yeah. No, it's just loading. Yeah.
So Dext, and I'll keep this very high level. Dext is a bookkeeping automation platform. 10 years ago, Dext was very well known for just extracting information, and that was it. But now we're not only dealing with that sort of data collection, data extraction, data categorization, and pushing all of that through to your sort of general ledger. We're also providing more and more insights in terms of helping you manage your client base, understanding what needs to be done, when it needs to be done by, who's responsible for the work, with all of these different insights. And what I will do is I'll come back to some of these dashboards, but what I want to just show you is the power of Dext. And I'm just jumping into one of my sort of dummy accounts here. And one of the most important things is the multiple submission methods. You can email documents in. You can take a picture of a document. Every client has a unique email address. If the document is a PDF and it's made up of multiple invoices, our AI will split them all out correctly. So you don't need to sort through documents where you've got 20 purchase invoices spanning different pages. But not only do we support the cost space, we also support extraction from sales invoices, bank statements. More recently, we've got supplier statements as well. This is an integration that also works with Xero and QuickBooks, where we actually do a two-way check to ensure you've got all of the information. And we've got a new area called Vault, which is an AI storage area as well for other documents. But what I'll just show you is the mobile app. And I'll just show you how quickly this works. So mobile app is the best way of using everything. And I won't share my mobile, but what I'm just going to do is just going to quickly take a picture of a receipt that I have here. And you can do multiple receipts. You can put in notes, and I'm just going to submit that. And what we'll see coming through any minute now, and this is the danger of doing things live. There we go. So this is now starting to filter through. This is our AI working, and it's checking all of these things automatically. Well, you can see it's already put a tick behind all 7 documents. So there's a chance that this document, there we go, has already been done. And if we look at my history, this is UK time 11:15, and literally it's been done and dusted in, what was that, 10 seconds, something like that. That's the picture of the document. If we scroll down, it's identified it's a receipt. It's identified that it's already been paid for. This is important to prevent things going through to the purchase ledger as unpaid, and then being sort of queries arising at a later date. But we identify all different document types for better reporting. It's pulled out the date. It's often quicker on finding things than I can. 14th of June. The supplier, Cinnamon Kitchen, is just flagging to me this is a new supplier. So when we publish it across, we can. It's pulled out the document reference. We've got a category that automatically tried to identify as staff entertaining. This is incorrect. You can change it, and we have functionality as well now where you can decide what categories your clients may see. We've pulled out a description. This is an AI description. It's automatically done subsistence. That's the AI there. I've got it turned on, so I automatically put the description in every time. Alternative is you can see what description we come up with. And it's pulled out the total amount, £24.10. It's pulled out the VAT of £4.2. And I could do extracting line items as well if I wanted to, if I needed that additional information. So very, very quick in terms of from taking a picture to that information now being readily available within Dext. If I wanted to, this is something we've just released, is prepayments. This is only currently working with the Xero integration, but we'll expand it to other integrations as well. We can automate the prepayment calculation as well, should it be a prepayment. If this was an expense, I've paid for it out of my own pocket. We have built-in expense claims as well. I can add this to an expense claim. I can create a new claim. I can add it to an existing claim. I can put it as a claim for myself. And I can just add that as a claim. If I then go to my expense claims, I now have this expense claim as well that can then go through the normal process. We do also, in addition, have inbuilt approval workflows, very comprehensive approval workflows as well. So if you did want approvals set up, I think my internet's just gone a little slow. Bear with me. I may need to come back to that. But we have the ability to set up when you want the approvals to come through as well. So just in terms of getting that information in, Dext makes it incredibly easy to get the information in, making it as seamless as possible, making it as straightforward as possible, coming back to that real-time information, coming back to that completeness of records. Looking at other documents, you can set up supplier rules as well. So you can set up a default category should you wish. You can also set up auto-publish. What that ultimately means is if this supplier, the nature of the transaction never really changes, you know there's never going to be any uncertainty over where it should be categorized to. This is where you can use supplier rules to select the category, auto-publish it, and it will immediately go through into your accounting software. That is maximum efficiency. That is effectively no hands at all. And there's a number of different supplier rules that you can set up. We also have the ability, I'll just see, is we've now got WhatsApp messaging. So you can now actually use WhatsApp to send documents through as well. So this is me just sending an invoice through. This was actually just via WhatsApp, because for some clients, you may decide you don't want to give them the Dext app because it may just overwhelm them. What you can do is just get them to use WhatsApp, take a picture, and that will automatically get sent through for you. The other thing we have, and I'll show you here, this is a receipt I did in the UK. I then put that receipt into ChatGPT and asked it to increase all of the amounts. So this is where potentially there's a risk that people start claiming more. If I just go and then show you that receipt, this is my AI generated receipt. Dext will actually tell you whether we believe that this invoice, this receipt has been AI generated. So it looks just as good as the last receipt. It's just that I've just doubled all of the amounts to double my claim in that scenario. A couple of other things just to mention is we've got in-app messaging as well here. So this is me setting myself up as a client as well. This is me as the accountant, sending a message to my client, asking if this was client entertaining, did staff attend. Clients using the mobile app for Dext will get a message. They can just respond there and then. So this is just taking away those sort of pain points, that sort of friction where time is often being eaten up, making it very, very straightforward. And then some of the other issues I often had was clients who would email in their train ticket. This is an email of my train ticket. And this is the actual train ticket itself. Dext will actually flag if this is a duplicate automatically. It doesn't need to be the same document. Our AI is looking for sort of common similarities. So in this, it was looking at the date, the amount, the reference, things like that. And I've got the option to say, no, it's a different purchase, or yes, it is a same purchase, and delete it if I want to, or attach it. So there is a huge amount of functionality within this to make it as easy as possible, not only for the clients to get the information in to you, but also making it as easy as possible for you, your teams, to actually process all of that information. With a lot of that information potentially can be fully automated. And if, as I say, if you do want those approvals, workflows as well, that's all included. The other thing behind the scenes we have is, although we don't extract everything, our millions of documents, our AI can actually, you can actually search for any document by just putting in any keywords. So if I put in my car number plate, it has just searched all of the documents within this account for this particular client. And as you can see, there's my number plate there. So we even make it very easy to find documents. If a client ever sort of says, oh, I can't find this document, or I'm sure I bought a computer, as long as you've got keywords, you can type those keywords in and we will find all of that information, any document it applies to. And then we do just have advanced search as well. So at any point you can find documents, you can export the information. I don't know 100% around all of the corporation tax rules within Dubai, but in the UK, you can get corporation tax inquiries. HMRC may ask to see all of the documentation for repairs and renewals and things like that. This is where you can search by a particular category and all of a sudden make it your life, put in any date range, and you can make your life very, very easy. I don't know what categories I've got here. Let me just try general. I may not have anything, but you'll get the point. And we'll search for anything that is in general, which you can then export as a single PDF. So we really are the sort of control hub for getting all of this information in, extracting all of the information and making it as efficient as possible. Sales, similar sort of process. You can upload sales invoices. We'll extract all of the information. Bank space. We connect with 14,000 different financial institutions, so you can have a direct bank feed. We'll extract all of the information, or you can upload a PDF like here, and then all of the transactions will be listed out. Anything you need paperwork for, you can request paperwork requests. Payments is coming very soon. This is in the UK to start with, but we'll look to expand payments into other regions. We're very close to doing a beta for that. We've then got Vault, where you can store any other documents should you wish, and this is all AI as well for automatic tagging. This is great in terms of any other documents that may help, and you can just set up rules and we will find those words. And basically this is saying apply this tag when MOT is there. Anything with MOT in, it will drop straight in. And then I'm just going to very quickly show, so I'm just conscious of time. We have lots of insights as well, and my favorite one is the delay day index. The delay day index looks at the date on a document compared to the date it was uploaded into Dext. And really, you want this number as low as possible. In this example here, it's taking 82 days on average for documents to appear in Dext. When it's that long a time frame, you don't have up-to-date numbers. You don't necessarily have real-time information. That can impact decision-making. It can impact the conversations. Firms I'm speaking to have a very big focus on getting that number down. You get that number as close to 0 or 1 as possible, it means everything is coming in as and when that transaction has occurred. As soon as it's being processed across or sent across through to your general ledger, you know you've got everything. You know you've got full information, completeness of records. It's that really drives the information. And then, as I say, we have lots of other insights as well around the quality of data, deadline, dashboards, workflows that can be built out as well. And then we also have Dext Commerce, which is embedded now as well. And you can connect to online platforms, eBay, Etsy, PayPal, Amazon, and pull through all of those transactions. So Dext is at the start of that journey. It sits before your accounting ledger, ensures all of the information's coming through, it's complete, it's accurate, all of that's published. And then post the GL, this is where Data Health and Insights, formerly known as Precision, is checking the quality of all of those records, providing additional insights as well. So that is a very quick sort of high level overview, which I hope gives a feel, not only having just seen that receipt and the power of that extraction. Most receipts documents go through in a matter of seconds. If you want line item extraction, can take a little bit longer, but we're still only talking, 30 seconds generally on the whole.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So I have a few questions. I'm just conscious of time. I think you've answered a few of them from the network. It doesn't look like anyone's dropped anything on LinkedIn. I'll just double check. Yeah, it doesn't look like anyone's dropped anything on LinkedIn. But yeah, I think look, we've gone through most of the questions that I had. Just looking through. So I think the one that would be good to hear about. So I had a question from someone in who we actually worked with, who's interested in looking into Dext. In terms of the time factor, so look, is there, I don't want to say like an algorithm, but is there like a sort of calculation you can do to figure out, like, this is how many clients I have, on average, this is how much invoices, or this is how many documents they have per month? How long is it going to take me to start using Dext? Like, how long will it take me to be fully onboarded? Like, obviously it'll be a journey. Is there like sort of a rough calculation you guys have?
Yeah, in terms of setting a client up on Dext and the integration and things like that, it takes about 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. Then I think it's more as and when invoices come through. I used to train my clients and get them sort of familiar with the mobile app and the submission methods. It would take about half an hour, something like that. It wouldn't take very long, because really what you're asking in stage one is just to get the information in. Let's not worry about all of the automation at the moment. Let's concentrate on getting the information in first. Once the information is in, then we start getting insights around regular suppliers and sort of common transactions and things like that. That's when you start moving into more the supplier rules and bringing in more of that automation as well. But from my experience, you can really start to see the return very, very quickly. You know, we're not talking months and months and months here. We're talking, you can potentially see a return in 1 or 2 days, depending on the volume of invoices. If you've got a big pile of invoices, 100 invoices, 100 receipts, you can get those through Dext in 5 minutes. You know, you've immediately got the return straight away. The important part is then investing time to really build on that automation. And that's your supplier rules, that's your line item extraction where necessary. That's using your auto publish where you're confident. And I would never tell anyone just to turn on auto publish on every invoice or every supplier straight away. Pick those suppliers where the nature of the transaction never changes. You've already got comfort that, look, it's extracting everything perfectly, and build from there. And utility bills, phone bills are often perfect ones to use because it's always the same every month. Would I ever use it on Amazon? No, because potentially what you're buying from Amazon could be different every day. And that's where you need that sort of scrutiny and the experts to double check the treatment for it. But yeah, very, very quick.
Yeah, no, I think no, I completely agree. I think it's not about automating absolutely everything. It's about automating like the 85% of things that you can, so you can concentrate on things that actually need your attention, rather than looking at like a phone bill and saying, yeah, that's a phone bill. Looking at like your rent.
Yeah, exactly. Focus on what you need to focus on rather than other areas.
Yeah.
You know, focus on what can be automated, get that out of the way, and then use the time to spend on those areas that can't be.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. I don't think, we don't have any questions on LinkedIn, which is absolutely fine. I won't take any offense to that. But if anyone does have any questions, feel free to shoot them across to me however you feel comfortable. LinkedIn, my email, whatever. I've got a meeting link as well, which I'll leave up for when we close off this meeting. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me today. Like I say, we could have continued the discussion for hours. I think this is something that I think it's such an easy win for most practices, and sometimes I feel like I speak to people and I'm like, why are you actually not doing it? Like, what is the big, because everyone's going to have hesitations for different reasons. But for me, it's like something like Dext is like such an easy way to start. And
it is. I
think why, like, there is so much to get done. And like in like the day and age that we live in, it's almost like if for me, it's like, why is it not happening? Like, what's actually stopping you? Because something like Dext is such an easy place. I think if you get into like, because a lot of people talk about like automating, like you said, cloud, like your cloud ledger, like everything, like to analytics, to reporting, to FP&A work, to like that stuff. That stuff, I think if you get Dext right, if you get your data entry right and it quick and timely, you can get your TB sorted very, very quickly. And then you can look at like doing the analytics, and then you can look at like all of the extra benefits that you get. But the first point is like really starting out with that, like where your documents actually go in, where like your cloud filing cabinet, you can call it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really about that, like making sure that that's up to scratch before you go into anything else.
Tish, you can't start moving into the advisory piece without getting the foundations right.
Yeah.
The foundations is getting the information, completeness, accuracy as well. And time is precious. you know, Dext is where I started all those years ago, or a soup bank. And time, it doesn't matter whether you're using it for the business, it could be time for yourself. And ultimately, we're giving you time back to choose how you want to use it.
Yeah, exactly. That could be completely different for different people. But yeah, the point is that you don't, like, if machines can do it, it doesn't make sense why a human is still doing it, for me. Anyway, I think there's so many better things that humans can concentrate on than typing things up, right? But we've moved so much further than that in this day and age. So I think that's a good point to end on. Paul, thank you so much for joining. Again, it's amazing to have these full circle moments when, like, you've worked, you've seen it evolve, you've kind of come full circle. I've moved to the desert, and now in this conversation again. So yeah, thanks again, and we'll definitely have more conversations going forward. Cheers, Paul.
No worries at all. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.